In this video, I'm going to be going over some additional problems on percents. So let's do this. Number 1, a chemist mixed X milliliters of 34% acid solution with a 10% acid solution. If the resulting solution is 40 milliliters with 25% acidity, what is the value of X? Okay, so as usual, you should try these problems first on your own, and then come back to pause and do the problem, and then unpause it to get the solution and see how I worked through it if you got stuck. So this final solution is total of 40 milliliters. We can set up one equation with that. There's this chemist that pours X milliliters of the 34% solution, and then let's say Y milliliters of the 10% solution. So total is 40, okay? Now, the resulting solution is 25% acidity. So, there's 40 milliliters, and we multiply it by 25%, so 0.25. That's the amount of acid that is in the solution, the actual amount in milliliters. All right, so similarly, we can do that for this 34% acid solution. There's X milliliters, and 34% of it is acid. Plus, there's Y milliliters of the 10% one, and then times 0.1, so you get the amount of acid just in that 10%, or 10% of Y, like this, to get the amount of acid. I can't talk right now. Okay, so here are your two equations, and we can solve the system of equations. Okay, so how can we solve this? Well, first of all, this one would be, we can substitute. So for example, Y is 40 minus X, okay? Now, let's also just multiply everywhere by, so this is times the fourth, right? 0.25. So this is divided by 4, which is 10 over here. So X times 0.34 plus 40 minus X times 0.1. I substituted the Y as 40 minus X right here. Okay, and then we solve for X. If we don't get a calculator, how can we do this? We can multiply both sides by 100. So 1,000 is 34X plus, if I multiply this by, these two by, or this term here by 100, so 100 times 0.1, that's 10, so that is 400 minus 10x, okay? So 600 is equal to 24x, so x is 600 over 24. If we simplify that, that is 100 over, divided by 6, right? So 4, which is 25. So the answer is 25 milliliters, D. This is how we set up these mixture problems all the time. Number 2, price of a package of 4 pens is $8. The same pens are sold at $2.50 each. If Alex bought 3 packages of pens rather than buying 12 pens individually, the amount he saved on 12 pens is what percent of the amount he paid? So how do we set this one up? So how much did he actually spend? He bought 3 packages, so he spent 8 times 3, which is $24. So he actually spent $24, okay, for those 3 packages. If he bought them individually, that would be 12 times $2.50. Now what's that? Well, 4 pens would mean $10. There's 12 pens, right? So $30 he would have spent if he bought them individually. So now what does the question ask? The amount he saved on 12 pens, so what's the amount he saved? He saved $6. Is what percent of the amount that he paid? So if we translate that to equation, the $6 is what percent, that's X over 100, of the amount he paid. Of times amount he paid, $24. Okay, so 1/4 is x over 100. Okay, so x is 25, so 25%. Answer C. There are 600 bottles of sports drink in the store. 25% of the bottles are orange flavored. On Monday, 30% of the orange flavored drinks in the store were sold. And on Tuesday, 20% of the remaining orange flavored drinks were sold. How many bottles of orange flavored drinks were sold in the 2 days? Okay, so how do we set this one up? 600 bottles initially. 25% of the bottles are orange flavored. So 600 times 25%, so times 0.25, or divide by 4. What's 600 divided by 4? That should be 150. So initially there are 150 bottles of orange flavored drinks, or orange drinks, I'm just going to probably say. Okay, so on Monday, 30% of the orange drinks were sold. So okay. So if on Monday 30% was sold, so that's times 0.3, let's say Monday, okay? What is that? Well, that's 150 times 3 over 10, right? So this is 15 times 3, so that's 45. So this is the amount sold. So the remaining, I'll just say remaining is 150 minus 45, so that is 105. Okay, we need this for the Tuesday number of sales. So on Tuesday, 20% of the remaining were sold. So 105, that's the remaining from Monday, times 0.2, 20%, which is same thing as 150, sorry, not 150, 105 times 2 over 10. Okay, so that is 210 over 10, which is 21. Okay, so what is the question asked again? How many bottles of orange flavored drinks are sold in 2 days? 45 plus 21. What is that? That's 66, right? The answer is C. A tablet with a list price of X dollars is discounted by 15% and then discounted by an additional 12%. What is the final price of the tablet in terms of X? This, if you go shopping, this is an easy question to set up. All right, so what's the price after the 15%? That's X times 1 minus 0.15, which is 0.85. And then we discount it by additional 12%. So we want not times 0.12, but times 0.88, because we only want 88% of what's left. 12% off, so 88% left. Similarly, 15% off, 85% left, okay? So if you put this into a calculator, I don't know if you're allowed to calculate for this. If not, you have to do it by hand. It should be 0.748. Answer is B. Again, if you go shopping, this one should be a piece of cake. So if you shop sales, I should say, and you do the calculations. There is a total of N pairs of shoes in a store, all of which are either black or brown. If there are M pairs of brown shoes in the store, then in terms of M and N, what percent of the shoes in the store are black? Okay, so there's a total of N pairs of shoes, so the denominator should be the total. Okay, we're gonna basically set a ratio, and then we'll change it to percent afterward. Okay, okay, so there's total of N pairs of shoes, and M pairs are brown. So that how do we symbolically in variables represent the number of black pairs of shoes? That's just N minus M. Okay, and then we times 100%. Okay, so did we get a matching answer? Is it this one? It's not. Be careful, because you didn't do the times 100%. You got to be careful there, because this would be an even smaller number. You move the decimal place 2 times to the left. Okay, so be careful not to choose that one. So how can we get a matching answer? Well, we can simplify. So N over N minus M over N times 100%, but let me put parentheses to be super clear. Okay, so then that is just 1 minus M over N times 100%. So That is D. Okay. The numbers A, B, and C are positive, and A equals 3.2 BC. If B is increased by 150% and C is decreased by 60%, then A is what? So let's be careful with this. If B is increased by 150%, you got to be careful here. Let's take a different example. If B is increased by 100%, how do we symbolically represent that? That's B plus B, or 2B. Okay? So if I'm saying that because don't be confused that if B is increased by 100%, if it said that, it's not just B times 1. 100% is 1. So that's not right. It's B becomes B times 1 plus, if it was 100%, it'll be 1. This is plus 1.5. 150% is 1.5, which is equal to 2.5B. So you got to be careful for that. If C is decreased by 60%, what do we do? It's C times 0.4. Okay, or it's C times 1 minus 0.6, which is C times 0.4. So now let's plug it into this equation over here that we can set up. A equals 3.2 BC, while B became 2.5 B, and C became 0.4 C. Okay? So notice that, okay, let's work this out then. If you can't see it right away. So BC, what's 2.5 times 0.4? Well, 25 times 4 is 100, and then we just moved the decimal place twice. So 100, but then we moved the decimal place twice from here, so it's just 1. So it's just 1, so I'm going to cross that out. So A is unchanged. Okay? Number 7. There are 10 history books in a bookcase. When the number of books increases by X%, the new number of history books is 24. What is the value of X? So let's set this up. 24, the new number, is equal to 10 times, it's a percent increase, so 1 plus X over 100. Similar setup to before. Okay? So we can start solving. So 24 over 10 is 1 plus X over 100. Okay, so minus 1 on both sides, so that's 14 over 10 is X over 100. Okay, so X would be 140. Answer is D. Number N is 25 less than 120% of itself. What is the value of N? So let's translate that sentence into an equation. N equals, N is 25 less than, so something minus 25, 120% of itself, so 1.2 N. Okay? And now we just solve for N. So what would that be? That's 25 is equal to 0.2 N, which is 2 over 10, right? Let's write it as 25 is 1 over 5th N. So N is 125. Answer is A. Of the 500 cards displayed in a certain card dealer, 7% are blue and 4% are red. The number of blue cards in a card dealer are what percent greater than the number of red cards? All right, so how do we set this one up? Well, how many blue cards are there? So blue is 500 times 7 over 100. 7% is 7 over 100. So what is that? This is 5 on top, so 35. Similarly for red, sorry I don't have my red pen here, but red is 500 times 4%, which is 4 over 100. So that is, this is again 5 on top, so 20. Okay? So now what does the question ask? The number of blue cards in the car dealer are what percent greater than the number of red cards. So we can set up a percent change equation. So number of blue cards, 35, is what percent greater than the number of red cards? So 20 times 1 plus x over 100, percent change. Okay, so again, if it were 100% greater, then that means it's doubled of this. If the number of blue cards is 100% greater than the number of red cards, then that means there's 40 blue cards, right? So that's why it's a percent change. You gotta be careful. Okay, so we start solving. So 35 over 20 is equal to 1 plus x over 100. Now minus 1 on both sides, so that's 15 over 20 is x over 100. So x is 15 times 5, which is 75. 75%. All right, 3 more. If 300% of 8.18 is equivalent to 20% of b, then b is equivalent to what number? So it's asking what b is. So 300% means 3 times of 0.18. Maybe let me use parentheses to be careful about dots. Is equivalent to 20%, 0.2, of b times b. So we solve for b. b is 3 times 0.18 over 0.2. Okay? So that is just 2.7. Let me see if I did it in my head correctly. This is, yeah, that's right. Because 0.2 times 0.9 is 0.18, and then times 3, not 0.18. Yeah, actually. Yeah, this becomes 0.9, so times 3, 2.7. Okay. I don't know what I was saying, but 2.7. Okay. 5 people contributed $9,000 each toward the purchase of a sailboat. If they ended up paying $38,500 plus 8% sales tax for the boat, how much money should be refunded to each person? So, how much did they pay in total? 9 times 5 is 45. So 45,000. If they ended up paying this much plus 8% sales tax, so 38,500 times 1.08, how much is that? That is 41,580 if you plug it into your calculator. So then they overpaid by how much? Take the difference of these. That is, so 45,000 minus 41,580. That is 3,420. If I did it in my head correctly. Okay, so they paid this much extra. So 3,420 divided by 5 people. What is that? That's 684. Okay, that's the answer there. Last one, a store used to sell an MP3 for $72, which is 50% more than the wholesale cost. At a special holiday sale, the price of MP3 was 20% less than the wholesale cost. What was the special price of the MP3? Okay, so we gotta probably find the wholesale cost first, and then that will help us. So if we say the wholesale cost is X, and we times 0.5, half of the, which is 50% more than the wholesale cost. So, sorry, it'll be X times 1 plus 0.5 is equal to 72. Okay? So this is 50% more, so percent change again. Again, if it's 0% more, then it's the same price. If it's 100% more, it's doubled. So that's why this makes sense here. Okay? So, X is equal to 72 over 1.5. So if we're not allowed to calculate for this, how do we do that? That is 72 over 15 over 10, right? Which is 720 over 15. Okay? Do I want to do it like that though? So 72 times 10 over 15. So then let's start canceling some stuff. Like this would be 3 and 24. Sorry, not 3. This would be 5 and 24. So then this would be 2. So that is 48. Okay, so the wholesale cost is 48. Now they're selling it for 20% less than the wholesale cost. So 48, 20% off, so times 0.8. You want 80% of it. What's of the original? Okay, so what is that? That should be, if I not allowed a calculator, what is that? That is 320, but move the decimal ones. 32 plus 64, but move the decimal ones. So that is 38.4. Okay, and that's it for this problem set. Again, I would recommend if you weren't familiar with the mixture problem, I would get familiar with how to set it up. Otherwise, I don't think these were too bad. Again, the key thing to not get tricked on is if it's asking for percent change. Okay, that's what I feel like most people would make the mistake on. So hopefully my explanations kind of make sense. For example, if it increased by 100%, it's doubled. It's not b times 1, it's b times 2. So it's b times 1 plus the 100%. All right. As always, please like and subscribe if you found this video to be helpful for you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.